Hello, this is Adam with Dream Productions. This video is made possible by the very kind donations of viewers like you. Thank you. If you are in a position to help this channel improve quality and grow, please visit my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/DreamMadeProductions, linked below.
It is the 31st century, and mankind is once again at war. The battlefields of the future are dominated by huge robotic war machines known as battlemechs.
So, it's been a while since I left off on my history with BattleTech. Being home with family has brought back memories. Staying in my house here has also drummed up feelings and memories that are bittersweet for reasons I will discuss later. All that has led me to continue this series covering my history with the BattleTech universe and gaming in general. When we left off, adulthood had hit me in full force. Gaming was becoming extremely rare, and I had not picked up a BattleTech product outside of the MechWarrior PC games in years. Life was changing here and there. I have been accused of being cheap. While I can't totally disagree, I do tend to prefer the term thrifty. When I have to spend money, I do. But I learned very early on that your income can change at any time, or unexpected expenses can be dropped on you with all the compassion of a first succession war orbital bombardment. Between college and my first few years in the real workforce, I went through some very dark times. Still, things were starting to turn around. Fortunately for me, years of having a professional is too nice for those asshats. Let's say full-time hours job. I did manage to save up a little savings before stepping foot into that game store on the memorable day. Gaming-wise, things had also started to change. Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 was the new hotness at the time, and Wizards of the Coast was supporting the game with a campaign called Living Greyhawk. Think of it as an MMORPG, but pen and paper. And if you wanted to go to a region, you physically had to be in the corresponding real-life region. Go online and read about it. It was super cool, and I miss it. In Living Greyhawk, I managed to find some guys to play with on a, can't say regular, but at least not rare basis. Plus, a lovely lady had entered my life that did not mind playing such nerdy games with the guys. Aside from the job I hated, things were going, let's go with pretty well. As I mentioned in the prior video, I walked into a game store that was pretty much Warhammer, Magic the Gathering, a few board games, and the other 10% split between everything else. Still, they did get a box of BattleTech stuff in at some point and had a small shelf. What's more, some old-timers, yes, even older than me, had found the store and were trying to get the word out that BattleTech was back. I was a kid during the heyday of BattleTech. Its 80s roots and the apex of the 90s clan invasion. Most of these guys were adults or teens during those years. They reintroduced me to BattleTech and informed me of its return. The new at the time Catalyst box set was amazing. I had a few minis as a kid. Some plastic from the 3rd edition set. Some metals I got mostly from flea markets or yard sales. The 24 plastic mechs in the box set, well, for me it was a deal. I did not do the math, but I feel like it almost tripled the number of mechs I had. It was a big purchase for me at the time, but it had to be done. I played with that box set for several games, pretty much content to leave it at that. Those guys also introduced me into using Heroscape terrain for BattleTech. I had played with the maps, but the new terrain made things much easier to envision and was just cool looking. Sure, there are other options today, but back then you had few choices. Hex maps, Heroscape, inch rules, and custom-made terrain. While I grant you the custom terrain is awesome, I just don't have the time or talent for something like that. I stick to the Heroscape stuff to this day. Too bad the game sucked and has been out of print for years. But I'm getting off on a tangent again. The game store was the kind of place that wanted to be a Warhammer and Magic the Gathering place. They just could not compete with the already established and entrenched Warhammer and Magic shops. So they floundered about not knowing exactly what they wanted to be when they grew up. It was not long before they started trying to rent out time on video game systems that, of course, were in the same room with people trying to play board and card games. Plus, they wanted to sell out of BattleTech product before ordering more. I believe they knew nothing about BattleTech, and their distributor had saddled them with a mix of product mostly made up of stuff no other store wanted. Once all the good stuff was gone, and all the acceptable stuff, and a few things of the just dumb stuff we bought, they still did not want to put in an order for more. They ended up marking up the remaining BattleTech stuff and relegating our group of 6-ish to a table slightly larger than one of those TV dinner stands. The store did not last very long, and neither did the group. It would have ended there. One Catalyst box set plus my old minis. But that girl I told you about asked to play one day. She did not care for the store, or the old-timers, but the game itself, well, it was no Dungeons and Dragons, but she liked it enough to ask Santa for a box set of her own. Obviously, she got it. Our D&D group had no interest in BattleTech despite our best efforts. Still, we would have fun playing each other. Being a weeb before there were weebs, she was, of course, House Karita. I try to play everything, but I do have a love for Federated Suns, so that worked out. She loved to paint the minis, and unlike me, she was actually good at it. She is also the reason my collection started growing. Until then, we had stuck to the box set and my childhood minis. She surprised me one day when she threw down a brand new mini and taught me to fear dual AC-20s. You see, she started an arms race with her purchase of that king crab. Times were hard, but they were good. We got our RPG kick with Living Greyhawk, our tabletop wargaming with BattleTech, and GameStop ruled the video game world. Still, my job was not working out. They were always kind of douches, and a change in management made the situation even worse. Very long and likely profanity-laden story later made short. Each year I worked, I was paid less than the year before. I had dropped out of college to get where I was, but I don't like to leave things undone. I was taking night classes, but to finish my degree would have taken decades at one class a semester. I will date myself here. It was 2007, and I was faced with a choice. I could stay where I was, praying that things would change. My pay was getting dangerously close to McDonald's level. I could choose to return to school and get a degree. I could abandon my game design dreams and get a, quote, useful degree that would all but ensure me a real job. Or I could throw caution to the wind. I saw the amazing things people were doing on YouTube at the time, and I desperately wanted to join that community. Be it the right choice or not, I opted for the degree, a decision I still regret to this day. At the time, I was hopeful. Sure, maybe I would be working at some middle management job somewhere, but my family would be protected, and if I worked hard enough, I might be able to save up some FU money. And well, maybe then I could get to YouTube. I signed on the dotted line, a choice that haunts me to this day. I was taking classes online while keeping my crap job at full time. I had to refuse any non-mandatory overtime. As you can imagine, they did not take that well. I did manage to attend the convention that ended Living Greyhawk. That year's OtterCon served as the climax for plot lines for most of the southeastern U.S. regions. The plan was to continue when Living Forgotten Realms got rolling, but that did not work out for reasons better suited for a Dungeons & Dragons video. Let me know if you would like to see that. Speaking of things that did not work out, I finally finished that degree in 2008. For any younger viewers, that may just be a year, but for anyone who was around back then, well, you know what I'm talking about. A month after finishing my degree, I was let go after 8 years of service. That nest egg I had saved up, well, college tuition, books, and now a job loss ate through that pretty quickly. It was not long before I was putting dog food on a shelf at the local Walmart. That lovely lady and I were on different schedules as her job moved her to nights and I was working 2 jobs to keep the mortgage paid. The dark times had returned. The Living Greyhawk group dissolved with the failure of Living Forgotten Realms, many of its members moving away. Even something as simple as game night became a problem, as our work hours rarely saw us off at the same time. The 25th anniversary of BattleTech saw a new Catalyst box set. I had found full-time employment again, but it was a whopping 50 cents an hour more than what Walmart paid me. Just 40 hours a week instead of 32. Despite my family's unstable financial situation, we saved our money and both made our big fun purchase for the year, the new box set. It was a step up from the prior set, especially the Loki and Thor minis, even though you had to put them together. Our forces grew even though I can't say we got to play much. Then came the day every man dreads. The day when you come home from work and something has changed. You get a note or a letter, or in my case, a Skype call. On that day, I learned from her to fear more than just AC-20s. Those painful words still haunt me to this day. You were always at work, and he has time for me. As I am prone to do, I felt the problem lie completely with me. If I could just fix this or that, things would go back to normal. In my temporary insanity, I sold off a lot of my gaming stuff. D&D, BattleTech, video games, board games, some of my childhood toys. what did that stuff matter if I had no one to enjoy it with? I got a second full-time job and tried to bargain with the universe. If I just worked enough, if I just suffered enough, it could all be undone. Somehow, some way, those happy days would return. I was at my lowest point. It could have gone far worse if fate had not stepped in. You see, I was not totally alone. Someone sat and listened to my tale of woe. It would take years, but that person started the long and no doubt frustrating process of putting my shattered heart back together. I would keep my self-imposed punishment up for 2.5 years. 85 to 100 hours per week in split shifts. My day job was 8:30 in the morning to 9 p.m. My night job midnight till 7 a.m. Drive time was an issue. 8 hours of sleep was very rare for me. My family was supportive at first. More cash would never be a bad thing, and it was a way of dealing with the grief. Then steadily, they watched my health and mental state decline. They tried to warn me I was going too far. I ignored them and kept going, thinking my misery would be cured if some magical task could be accomplished. Eventually, be it God, fate, the universe, or stupid blind luck stepped in. I had ignored my family's warnings, but I would not be able to ignore what was to come. On my way to work, I stopped at a red light. I had just put in 3 20-hour work days back to back, and I fell asleep. In the time it took me to stop and wait for the light, I was sound asleep and dreaming. Honking woke me up when the light turned green. For a long heartbeat, I had no idea where I was or how I got there. All that in what was likely just a second or two. I am fortunate and grateful no harm was done, and the message had been received. Not long after, I quit a job and started working on myself instead of just my finances. One result was time to game again. A friend had returned to town. While he is, let's go with picky when it comes to games, he did agree to give BattleTech a try. While I had sold most of my books, I still had the core 3.5 D&D rulebooks, and just as importantly, my copy of Total Warfare. The great sell-off had not made it to most of my minis. My first 2 days working a single job were spent just sleeping. Then my first day totally off work, we went for a game of disc golf. The next weekend, I would play a game of BattleTech for the first time in years. And it would be in ways a great game, and in some ways the worst of my life. The match was 2v2. We each had a hunchback and an Osrock, hilly terrain. It did not take long for my friend to pick up the basic rules. My buddy may be picky, but he is no fool. He at once began using the hills to break line of sight, advancing without taking large laser shots. Finally, when we had moved into point-blank range, he won initiative. On his first attack roll of his first ever game, he rolled a hit, rolled a location, taking off my Osrock's head with his AC-20. Unable to fight both his Osrock and the Hunchback, it took a while, but I was defeated. The game was great because I had not played any game in years. It was the worst game of my life because my friend to this day has never grown tired of bragging about his victory. Almost 10 years later, whenever we are having a friendly disagreement, yep, he takes great joy in trolling me about that victory. Catalyst had released a new box set in the years I had spent running myself into the ground. Fortunately, I was able to get my hands on it despite it being out almost 2 years. All I can say is, wow. The 2013 BattleTech introductory box set CGL 3500B remains my favorite BattleTech set, bar none. The base mechs were the same, but the step up in quality is breathtaking. The prior Catalyst sets were far from bad, but these new minis bumped it up to a whole new level. Plus a Battlemaster and Mad Cat. Plus the game maps had been redone in board game quality. And all the normal goodies. $60, it was a steal. I wish I had bought more. They also released their first Lance packs. For the most part, they were made up of 2 mechs from the box set plus 2 new plastics, all done in the same upgraded quality. I picked those up when I could. But I can't start on that right now. It's for another video, so I have to get back on track. For 6 months, I wandered without any real direction. I simply did not know what to do. I gamed where I could, but everyone I knew was long past childhood. Jobs, kids, and other real-life problems made scheduling very challenging. Being a kid can suck, but at least everyone is more or less on the same schedule. My Star Wars game, now called Fleet Action, tended to be more popular with people I could get to play. I started to develop what is now the 2nd edition of the game. I would play test when and where I could, still wanting to get BattleTech going as well. Then, in the middle of my wandering, I received another phone call from a lady. At first, I thought it was just another call from someone I had grown close to. The wonderful yet distant person who had listened to me cry in agony and shared my grief. But I was wrong. Once again, a call would change my life. It would see me move 600 miles away from everyone and everything I had ever really known. It granted me the chance to start anew, so to speak. New jobs, new challenges, new opportunities. It would lead to changes, and to this channel. But it's me we're talking about here. So I would, of course, find a way to muck it up here and there. I left home, my heart far from repaired. But you see, Jenny had at least found most of the pieces. Well, I think that's a good place to stop for now. I'll continue this when the time comes. Until then, I just want to thank you for listening to me rant. Next time, I'll tell you about moving to Michigan, learning what a real anime fan is, being schooled in cosplay, returning to the convention scene, and, of course, reviving the dream that is this channel. I also wanted to thank you for allowing me the chance to entertain you. And as always, I hope you enjoy the battle reps that are to come. Hello, this is Adam with Dream Made Productions. Thank you for watching my content. It really means a lot that you have given me the chance to entertain you. If you would like to support the channel, please visit my Patreon at patreon.com/DreamMadeProductions, linked below. Also below is a link for PayPal, or links if you would like to send crypto, if that's more your thing. Please know any amount that you give will be cherished and used to upgrade equipment and improve the channel. You can also help the channel by subscribing, turning on notifications, liking, commenting, and sharing my channel with anyone you think might be interested. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you enjoy the battle reps that are to come.